Good evening, everyone. So, my group will be presenting our discussion about social change communication within the domain of health. Next slide, please. So, this is our group members. There are Dominica, Kezia, Meidyana, Magnifisia, myself, Grandhis, Vadhillah, and Rashad. Next slide, please. Healthy living digital technologies such as health-related mobile application and wearable health gadgets are increasingly being employed in educational settings, according to an international evidence base. The capability of these gadgets and apps to promote and improve health in terms of physical activity, body image, perception, and diet behaviors is essentially what drives such technological integration. Obesity, sedentary behavior, and associated communicable illness are all on the rise, and digital technologies are increasingly being positioned as cost-effective preventative solutions. Next slide, please. Young people are growing more interested in digital technologies for self-tracking, measurement, and quantification, only to empirical studies measuring the health-related impacts of using nutritional or physical activity application were found in recent systematic review of adolescents and young adults. Other randomized programs show no significant differences in diet and physical activity behaviors, while a non-commercial application resulted in weight loss and improved motivation. According to Depper and Howe, apps reinforce a restrict definition of health among adolescent girls that was tied to fitness and slend- slenderness. Understanding young people's experiences with healthy lifestyle technologies would provide much needed information into young people health. Next slide, please.
Okay, so moving on, when we're talking about surveillance, several experts have offered a variety of definitions and also viewpoints on supervision. So, for example, as defined by Gallagher, it is a beginning point for something to be constructed and expanded upon. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Rose defines supervision as a condition that is based on standards and truth claims. But however, if I could interpret it in a simple way, so supervision could be defined in this context as everything that is linked to the act of guarding, guiding, and which is that is carried out in order for the monitored target to function properly. So, for example, we could take an example from Michel Foucault's research, where he concluded that the prison tower, or also known as the panopticon, the metaphor of this prison tower has been viewed for being top-down, hierarchical, and also centered on disciplinary features of surveillance for the people that are in the prison. But however, if we would like to talk um, way further about surveillance, so within this discussion about supervision, it will never be separated from resistance. So, for example, in today's world, in today's era where everything is all about digital and also technology, an individual can resist surveillance and develop alternative ways of interacting with technology and also digitization. And people have the ability to self-monitor who they will become via technology and also the apps that are being provided. So alternatively, users are actively engaged in surveillance and as watchers, but also at the same time, they also deliberately and knowingly how to participate in the role of watched. So surveillance in this case is thus not only studied in terms of data as a resource or and discipline to which people are exposed, but also it has the ability to include entertaining, empowering, and also interactive parts of practice for the people. Moving on. So regarding to this study research, there are several highlights of methods that needs to be underlined towards this case study. So the first one is the context and participants. So according to the study, this case aims to provide a contextual, holistic, and also complete description of how young people use Fitbit devices and applications. So to cut it short, a total of 100 people, which includes 43 girls and 47 boys, age ranging from 13 to 14 years old, from two English schools, took part in the study. And also worth noting is that the two schools come from diverse socioeconomics background, which creates or contributes to the data's diversity by illustrating the many situations in which young people will use and experience Fitbit. And then moving on, comes next is the ethics. So just for a simple note and highlight that all participants in the study gave their informed consent after receiving ethical approval from the university or from the researcher. And the terms and conditions of Fitbit were also read and also followed by these participants. And furthermore, anonymity has been also addressed by using a number format to refer the young people. And the third one is the Fitbit itself. So here the Fitbit charges key. Oh, sorry, the Fitbit charges, which is the thing that is being used for this study case, has several features, which one of the main one is the ability to track, monitor, and measure the amount of steps taken during the day for its participants. So a mobile device can be downloaded within the app also that synchronizes the individual's data from the wristband to the dashboard. So the wireless data will be transferred to a computer or mobile device is possible.
Okay, so the next one is data generation. According to Camera and Goodyear, the data generated by questionnaires and Fitbit devices are not classified in accordance with the study question and declared objective. The only data that can be utilized is the data which is obtained by focus group interviews. The reason namely, since it could generate a supportive environment which potentially encourage the expression of diverse, sometimes opposed viewpoints. Focus group interview have the benefit of providing data on the participants' instant and individual reaction to the statement. And after respective participant had delivered their response, they were then asked to discuss their ideas and perception as a group until agreement was reached, in which later on will be utilized for doing in-depth review in order to acquire further in-depth insight. After that, the interviewer led the group by obtaining the point of agreement in their responses to the assertion. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next one, there is data analysis. Data analysis is the process of data analyzing utilize the concept of surveillance, search surveillance, and resistance from focal traces criteria utilized as parameters to deliberate each step. The following are the elaboration of each step. The first step, the authors read through all transcript to find relevant bits. The second step encompasses the action of deliberating, deciding, and using for analytical questions generated by focal to ensure that the research topics remain central, accessible, and reasonable to new understandings. In the third step, the researchers work separately to answer the research question using analytical question. Within this step, each researcher developed initial concepts in order to bring the themes together. Later on, the agreed themes were discussed in respect to the end goals in the fourth step. Next slide, please. A deliberative strategy, a note on the process. According to Tracy, 8 hallmarks for qualitative researchers can be utilized as a guide to conduct high-quality research. And Tracy distinguished between shared objective of excellent research and the various mean method practice, skills and craft by which those objectives are achieved. Tracy also argued that the end objectives are potentially variable due to the distinction between the end goals and varied means. Thus, in order to be relevant, they must interact with the practice, skills, and craft of many research traditions. Those principles are in line with Smith and McGannans that stated the assertion that judgment must be made continuously during the research process. Aside from that, those judgments must be open towards feedback and transparent. It can be said that deliberative strategy can be utilized as a procedure for generating high quality research. The purpose of the deliberation is to reach a kind of collective agreement in which all co-authors are given the opportunity to make decisions about various alternatives, viewpoints, and arguments. Next slide, please.
Surveillance and self-surveillance. Surveillance and self-surveillance were clearly connected to a norm of health, equating to fitness and being fit. The young people spoke of how the Fitbit device and app supported their health and fitness. The Fitbit helps a lot with keeping you fit. Steps were the strongest message the young people related to fitness. For example, if you're interested in your fitness and everything, I think it does help you, like for your steps. The measuring of 10,000 steps guided the young people towards a feeling that they were healthier. The device supported the young people how they should act, and they could constantly monitor their behavior towards certain norms of health. The young people were quite clear about self surveillance appearing as a consequence of the health surveillance gaze of the Fitbit. They, in some senses, willingly participated in the surveillance. The device and or app motivated them to be more active, and the measurements and daily targets set by the device encouraged them to do more physical activity. Next, please.
Okay, despite having an interesting and creative innovation towards health communication, it also creates a resistance towards the young people. And the first one is measuring is not accurate and it can make you feel bad or bored. One of the methods called Fitbit or a tracker for your walking distance is described as interesting by young people. But some also said that it's overwhelming and boring and engaging. And the impact of surveillance, as we discussed before, on well being was one of the main reasons for resistance. The demand for individual targets was reflected in how young people express their dissatisfaction with the device's representation of physical activity in their daily lives. And this, in a sense, that towards the creation of Fitbit, it also triggered the comments from young people that how a young person did not walk 1,000 steps a day, they will feel bad about themselves. Next, please. And the second resistance is measuring step has no educational value. Since the Fitbit gadget and software were introduced in physical education classes, there have been some debate among young people over whether Fitbits should be utilized in educational settings. The young people were against the teacher adding another layer of surveillance because they believe it would have a negative influence on their well-being. Furthermore, the physical educator's responsibility did not include tracking steps and calorie consumption. And the idea that the quality of a physical education session should be judged objectively and by step count was likewise rejected by the youth. Not only that, but the young people's opposition reveals a skepticism about the use of wearable health devices like Fitbits in the future. Next, please.
Discussion. So, qualitative data from an 8-week school based intervention involving 100 young people offered compelling evidence on the monitoring, self surveillance, and resistance that occurs when young people use a wearable health device. In terms of monitoring, the Fitbit device daily 10,000 step and calorie burning objective encourage young people to engage in more physical activity. Daily step objective, like the concern expressed by GARD 2014, Powell and Fitzpatrick 2015 and Deeper and Hoyt 2017. On the other hand, the young people in our survey believe that help should be tolerated to the individual as seen by their recognition and dif- uh, different people have various physical activity habits. In terms of skills, the young people question the capacities of self-tracking devices to govern their individual physical activity, behaviors, and the measurement accuracy of the devices, as well as the relevance of healthy living technology in their life and schooling. Thank you. I think that's it for our presentation. Thank you.